All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. It's podding time.
Yeah, it is.
Just decided to switch it up.
I like
at the
it.
Moment.
I love when we do new things.
Yeah.
I've told you many times in the bedroom.
And I still feel weird. I feel weird.
I told you that you shouldn't feel weird. Those are my kinks, and I just don't. I
No,
don't like
not
when
your
you get
kinks.
weirded out
Look,
by it.
We well established on Crossing Swords. There's no kink shaming.
None
I
whatsoever.
did also love on one of our recent TikToks. Someone did comment, "Isn't that when two guys touch dicks at an orgy?" And I was like, I don't think it's exclusive to an orgy.
No, I think any situation where two guys are just. It's just when you cross swords.
Especially on stag
that's all it
do's.
is.
Yeah. It's just
The stag do's are even different because it's just a stag do.
Yeah, but what I mean is it's socially acceptable.
Oh, far more socially acceptable a stag do.
Stag do. If anything, it could be one of the like stag do games. Do you know what I mean? Like on a night out.
A little sword fight.
I reckon you could get drinks involved.
Fencing.
Like when it stays on, whoever loses has to do a couple of shots or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
I think if you just...
I'm sort of liking this.
If you jump at someone crotch forward and shout, "On guard!" that initiates the game. That means you've challenged someone.
Because we'd have to do it in a hotel room, wouldn't
you could get a condom, not used, because we're not animals.
No.
And you could go around and you could slap someone in the face and go, "I challenge you to a duel."
I demand satisfaction.
Yeah, demand satisfaction.
Just slap
and then you engage in a little sword fight.
You'd get arrested for sexual assault. Do you know what I mean?
Well, look, but then when the police come, I'd say, "Well, we're on a stag do, officer," and they go, "Understandable."
Right, okay. Oh, right, so you're going to do it to one of the other people on the stag do, just not a passerby.
No, not a passerby.
That's what you got. I've talked to you about this before. Just you can't do it to strangers.
Disagree, but
and look, that's why you've had convictions. The judge disagreed as
not
well.
upheld.
You appealed.
Paid them off, baby.
Right, the German way.
The German way.
Yeah.
Is that a nice segue into our first topic?
It can be. It wasn't.
Or did you want to ramble some more?
I mean, I feel like you've taken us out of the ramble. You've gone.
No, we can go back into the
ramble. I will
seamlessly take us back into the ramble.
Go on then.
So I was with this bird, right?
All
right.
How big were her tits?
Mate. I'll tell you now, I'll get lost in them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. They're the heavies.
Bury me. If that's the way I go, that's the way I go. Do you know what I mean? Happy days.
I did just before the pod. I saw a random
pair of tits.
Well, yeah, always. Like anytime you're scrolling on the internet, you're going to come across a wild pair of tits you've never seen before.
It's so frustrating, isn't it? I know we've talked about it before, but when someone likes a tweet or an Instagram post or something, can you go, "Oh, I've got a like," and then it's just some fucking cam bot.
Yeah, the amount of times it says you've got a new follower, and I look and it's either just a username with loads of numbers, or it's a porn bot. Yeah. And they're always porn bots. They're not just bots. They're always porn bots.
Who's keeping them afloat?
The Russians.
But who's clicking on those?
There's a lot of sad men out there.
Yeah, but I know we've had this discussion before, but I'm going to do it again. There's so much free porn. Who's paying?
No, look, I'm with you. I can understand, right, finding a woman that's on OnlyFans attractive, but what I don't understand is them paying to have it, like, not even exclusive rights to see her naked, because loads of other men are doing it.
On the one hand, I get the support for performers, and I get that these people have to make a living, and I understand that. On the other hand, as a consumer, why would I buy something when it's there available for free? If you offered me something and went, "Here two of exactly the same thing, this one's not going to cost you a penny, this one's going to cost you like 20 quid a month or something."
Because it'll pretend to be your girlfriend for a bit.
Well, I'm going to, like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I've never understood people who pay for porn. I've never understood it. Like, if you're into a niche fetish, some really niche thing,
you're not an incel though, are you?
And you find someone who's willing to do it, or who does it, offers it. I get that. Because going and finding that for free, because also you like a bit, you like a bit of variety. You don't want to watch the same thing over and over again.
Well, but sometimes there's nothing better than going back to
a classic.
Yeah.
But what you don't want to have.
Do you have like a rotation? I'm always curious, because this isn't something men actually talk about that often.
I used to.
Is it just random every time now? You just flick
more or less,
pick what you fancy.
But it used to be.
I mean, obviously you're not doing that anymore because you're in a committed relationship.
But there used to be a series of. There used to be like, I don't know, maybe half a dozen that every now and then I'd go back to.
That is another mental thing about women, though, that some of them genuinely resent men
who watch porn
for masturbating when they're in a relationship. It's like, yeah, but we have needs.
Yeah, they don't stop.
Would you rather I was out there spreading my seed or just quietly in a dark room on my own?
Yeah, or just quietly dropping it in a bin.
Yeah. In a bin.
In a shower, in a bath, wherever you get rid of it.
Fair enough.
In your drink.
Burn it in a bonfire in the back garden.
Burn it, yes. I wonder what burnt jizz smells like.
Probably not nice.
Should we do an experiment? That'd be a pod first.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be a weird version of soggy biscuit, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but I bet no one on OnlyFans has burnt their
Whichever
jizz.
one of us can come into the fire first wins.
Yeah, and then it's tough because you'd have to get quite close to the fire to be able to get in the fire.
Well, it depends how good your shot is.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah. Right.
We'll give it a go anyway. We went back to the ramble.
I did see a random Daily Mail article online earlier that was about some woman squirted a man in the face, or squirted someone in the face with her tit because the woman moaned at her for breastfeeding because it was distracting her husband.
Right.
So she squirted
fully on the side of the woman.
Oh, totally.
Squirted the tit.
Yeah, yeah. Is that sexual assault though?
No.
Is it not?
No.
Your
bodily
juices of squirting at someone.
To quote every world leader in the Western world, that's self-defense.
Yeah.
I don't care if you call it attacking someone else. That is self-defense.
Did you see what Joe Wicks did? Speaking of breast milk.
Joe Wicks. Did he drink some?
Yeah. Not just some. He drank a bottle of his wife's tit milk.
Why?
Basically because he didn't want it going to waste.
Going to waste?
Yeah, it was about to go off. The kid, I believe, and like the kid wasn't going to drink it, and there was some spare. And so he filmed it as well.
See, that's how you know it's not just going for waste. That's how you know it's for clicks.
I mean, yeah. But what do you think about drinking your missus's breast milk? Would you drink your lady's breast milk?
I would not drink my lady's breast milk.
Would you try it?
I'd try it.
I'd try it for scientific reasons.
Yeah, it's like, do you know when they opened that shop that did breast milk ice cream? I'd try it.
See, that I don't know. My lady's
That's
milk,
where you draw the line.
I'd make ice cream out of my.
So you get the ice cream machine set up. Yeah. Then you get her
I'm pumping
to provide you,
just to get a couple of scoops. I mean, I'd try it. I wouldn't drink it, I don't think. And I certainly wouldn't drink a stranger's.
Certainly wouldn't neck a whole bottle.
No. And I certainly wouldn't eat someone else's breast milk ice cream.
I would.
Well, no, because that could be anyone I know who's had a baby whose breast milk.
You ain't going to find out whose it is. It's just ice cream.
Yeah, but that makes it worse.
Just ice cream. Well, so you're saying you want to know the cow who provides the milk for your ice cream, Matt? Well, how is it different?
Because we don't milk humans.
Well, you're suggesting that we do.
Look, I have a very weird relationship in terms of like.
End it there.
No, but like, I know for a fact if I was being really honest, I shouldn't eat meat. Like all my political beliefs and my leanings,
too. But I like chicken wings too much.
And like the way we treat chickens and cows and the way like they're farmed and their milk's farmed, it's all horrific.
But it tastes too good.
Yeah. So like I choose not to think about that. So like I then don't want us doing that to humans. I don't want to start strapping up women in farms.
I'm not talking about. I don't think. When I say they opened a cafe where they serve...
If they've opened a restaurant where they're serving exclusively breast milk ice cream, I don't believe it's all organic. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
I don't think these are grass-fed women.
You believe it is organic, but it's not free range.
Yeah, it's not free range. But I don't think it's organic. I reckon they'd pump them for the steroids and shit to get more milk out of them.
Yeah, but then Do
you trust big corporations to milk your women?
It's a small independent business.
So they say.
So they say.
That could be owned by a shell company that's owned by another shell company.
Look, if I'm honest,
back to Johnson & Johnson.
If I'm honest, if I want some ice cream and there's a bit of novelty to it, I am not going to go on a deep dive following the money for a company before I get a scoop of ice cream.
If we're going to be conscious consumers, Jake, that care about the planet, we absolutely should.
Oh, do you know what? Do you fancy stopping here for a beer? Hang on a minute. Give me a month to do some deep dive.
Pregnant migrant women being milked against their will for pennies on the pound. Do you know what I mean? For their breast milk.
It's a wage?
For your... Such is the absurdities of our time. I mean, and look, I've got my notes currently on a phone that has minerals in it that were mined by children in.
Oh yeah, the
Do you know
fucking
what I mean?
Congos.
Like,
Shit
so, like,
out at the
there's
moment for the
very little in
microchips,
our
for the
life.
cobalt.
Like, if we were to take that stance on everything, we wouldn't have anything. Do you know what I mean? So
No, but you can't exist without a smartphone in today's world.
do you think that's true?
I think there are ways around it, but I think it's very, very difficult. For example, like, you know this argument about, these poor people and they've got smartphones. But have you ever tried, have you tried to apply for a job these days? You can't just walk in and hand in your CV. They go, here's the thing. So they need access to the internet.
So you definitely have to.
And something to access the internet.
And there's not as many I was about to say local library, but there's not as many of those anymore.
No. Pretty much everything you do, even restaurants, if you go to, I know we set up poor people, you're arguing shouldn't go, but even if they treat themselves, 9 times out of 10 you go into, well, maybe 6 or 7 times out of 10 you go to a restaurant and it's like, can you scan the QR code? It's going that way. It's maybe not there yet.
I've not had that yet. I've not had that yet. Probably I go to really cheap restaurants. They're not investing in QR
also,
codes.
if you're on benefits or anything and the government challenge you on things, most appeals are done online. And if you want to do it via the phone or whatever,
so
it takes
you
that much longer.
You need a computer to access on a regular basis, don't you? Yeah,
everything
enough.
Companies always contact you via email, so you need access to email. And ultimately, it makes more sense to have a smartphone than a computer, so you can have it with you.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I stand down on that.
I don't, like I said, I think you can live without one.
Yeah,
but it's a luxury to live without one. It's a
when you have an old person in your life that has no access to the internet, it's an absolute pain in the arse to do anything with them, isn't it?
Yeah.
So no, fair enough. You're right. Speaking about food briefly, I'm interested in asking these silly little questions that turn into something more.
When they do.
When you eat food.
Yeah.
So say like you're having a burger and fries.
Set the scene, yeah. Can I just say, by the way, I went to a restaurant that was recommended to me in Amsterdam on my last trip.
Yeah.
It was a burger joint. Now, the service was a bit shit.
Yeah.
The burger was really good. I'll give them their dues.
Yeah.
But they did the thing that really bothers me. Charge for the burger and the fries separately.
No, do you know what? Me and Ash went to Gourmet Burger Kitchen years ago now. And it's the only time I've ever been in one because it angered me so much that everything was charged separate.
Burger was so good. I don't think I go back there though because I can't get past that in my head.
I think it's, but the thing is, that's more the norm now. Like, it's only if you go to
I'd understand it if the burger was like the size of this,
but it's not.
But it's not. It's a normal burger. I'm like, well, I want shit with it.
You would have already paid £12 for that burger normally, in like an upmarket burger restaurant, you're paying a minimum of £10 for a burger on its own.
Like if I'm paying 15, 20 quid for a burger, it should come with chips.
No, I agree with you.
Anyway, that's not the point.
But it's becoming rare and rare. But say you're at one of these burger joints, Jay, and you've ordered your burger and chips. So you're back in Holland. Yep. Anne Frank's house just round the corner.
Sure.
Red light.
Windmill on the other side, red mill over there. Yeah, red light.
There's people in lederhosen and all sorts. Do you know what I mean?
Not even the right country, but yeah, no, they're just on holiday. They're just on holiday. They've come up from Munich and they're just bopping around. Is it just
Bavarians that wear
It's pretty much just to southern Germany.
I've got an image in my head of Dutch people wearing lederhosen.
Dutch people, I mean, they ride lots of bikes.
Right,
ride around on their bikes.
Yeah, so you can't move for a bike. So right, you're having your do you
want a bike stat?
Yeah, if you want. Do you
Dutch bike stat?
For example, if I'm having a burger and chips, 9 times out of 10, I eat all the chips first.
Okay.
And save the burger for last.
Is there an order? Well, with burger and I eat every meal in an order.
That doesn't shock me.
But not with burgers and chips. I would split it. I would split it. Yeah.
So do you have like a bit of chips and
I tend to leave a few of the chips till. No, I don't actually. What I do is I eat around the burger. Like I'll eat a burger like normal, and then I'll save.
What do you mean like normal?
Like just bite. But then I'll leave one little bit that's got everything in it. Do you know what I mean?
I save the whole burger for last.
No, but what I'll do is I'll save. There's like a little bit with like burger, bacon, cheese, whatever I've got in the burger, it's all in that little section of the burger.
Yeah,
and I'll just eat around it so that then the last 2 or 3 mouthfuls that I have
are the best.
Are all the good shit.
Yeah.
And that'll be the last bit I eat of the whole meal.
Right. Say you're having a fry up then.
Sure.
I like then. That's most meals. I mix everything, not in terms of I cut it all up and smush, but I mean like I'll have a bit of that,
a dip in that, and a bit of this. Yeah. Fry up's great for that.
Fry ups. This is my setup, and I sort of stole it from my dad. To be fair, where you have the toast on the plate, bit of bacon on top of the toast, egg on top of the bacon, slice that bad boy up, have it with a bit of sausage, some mushrooms, whatever else you fancy.
Oh no, I have the toast on the side, but then I'll get the toast in. But I'll bring the toast into play when I want the toast.
I would just suggest, from a fat man, right? My food suggestions are rarely wrong. Just try it with the toast in it, bacon on top,
I'll go for it.
egg
But
on
do you know
top.
what I really like at the end of a fry up is getting a bit of the toast.
Yeah.
I mean, a bit of a fair bit of the toast, and just mopping up all that good shit that's left on the plate.
See, with the way I do
it soaks into
you're
it.
naturally doing that. Do you know what I mean?
I love that little finish.
I tend to like to leave a bit of toast so that if there's a couple of sausages, I have one sausage with everything else, and then save one sausage for the end, and I have like a little mini sausage toast butty.
Yeah, and I'll do
and
that.
And then if there is any sauce left, that's good.
I'll have a bit of bacon, a bit of egg or whatever on a bit of toast. You know, little bite of that, and
like if I'm having like a roast, I'm having a bit of all the roast. But like if I'm going to a carvery, I leave a couple of slices of gammon and a Yorkshire for the end to
roast,
mop everything up.
I like to have 2 Yorkshires at least.
Minimum.
Right. And what I like to do, I'll start...
At Christmas, I want 6 Yorkshires.
I'll start with a Yorkshire.
Okay. Yeah, totally.
Start with the Yorkshire. That's like a warm-up.
Yeah.
Then what I'll kind of do is I'll kind of work my way between the meat and the veg.
Yeah.
Focusing on the veg.
Absolutely. I'm surprised at how much we're agreeing on this.
Then I get to the meat, and then roast potatoes last. Because roast potatoes are the king of a meal for me.
See, if someone's put roast potatoes on my roast, I hope there's no more than 2, usually.
No, I want like fucking 8 of the bastards.
No,
I want them
like
the good shit.
Most ever, I think I've had like 4 roast potatoes.
No, you've not had good roasts, my man. You've not had a good roast potato.
I would agree with you. I don't think they exist.
No. I'm going to get you some good roast potatoes.
I'm not even a big mash fan, but mash over roast potatoes any day.
I've told you before, diversify the potatoes. We don't have to choose either or.
I like dauphinoise as well. I like a dauphinoise.
Let me ask you this, and this is really out there because I think I know what you're going to say.
What?
Would you ever have chips with a roast?
No.
No, it's wrong.
No, it's disgusting. Like, that's just...
I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not even a big chip guy either. Like, I occasionally like chips.
But every time you come on this podcast, you basically say you don't like food.
Well, clearly
that's so what is happening?
I eat a lot of the stuff I do.
every food that comes up, you're like, I don't really like that. I'm not really big on that. I don't
It's
really
not
eat that.
uncommon for overweight people to actually be fussy eaters. We just eat a lot of the wrong stuff.
Do you know what? I've been watching where I've been occasionally I'll sit back and watch a Harry Hill's TV burp.
I fucking hate that show. I hate him because
he was watching a fussy eaters thing, and they people who just eat one thing or whatever. And you just take the piss out of it because they're like, oh, we're going to build them up so that they can go to a restaurant and order something that isn't chips. And he's like, yeah, okay, go on. And he goes to the restaurant, and what's the order? Oh, chips. Like, what a waste of half an hour of my life.
Yeah.
But you're right, they would just eat one thing.
I mean, I'm not as bad as one thing.
Do you remember that bloke? I can't remember what it was on, but fish and rice cakes. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
10 o'clock, fish.
Wasn't he like a wannabe bodybuilder?
Yeah, but he was skinny as fuck.
Yeah. That's why I said wannabe.
Yeah.
Like, I do remember that.
10 o'clock, fish.
And he got absolutely
12
roasted.
o'clock, fish and a rice cake. 2 o'clock, fish.
That's such a sad existence to not be... Like, if he looked ripped as fuck, there's something you're getting out of this. But when you just look like a beanpole, and that's your existence.
I remember when I was at the gym once, back when I would go to the gym, and one of the personal trainers there was talking with the guy who was training, and he was like, oh, man. In fact, he was talking to one of the other trainers, tell a lie, while this guy was doing a set, and he was like, oh, man, he says, I can't... He says, forget cakes. I can't even tell you the last time I had cake. And I just thought, what a sad little life. what a miserable existence that must be.
For a second, I thought you were going to do the come time.
The come time bit, yeah.
What a sad little life, Jane.
You've ruined my night. I hope you use the money to buy some lessons in decorum and grace because you've got all the grace of a bursting dump truck.
Yep.
Now get out of my house.
TV
I love
gold,
that. It is
it?
absolute TV heritage.
No,
but then do you know what made
rattled.
Do you know what made it even funnier? Was that after he's gone, I can't even remember the last time I had cake. The other guy went, I was at a party with you like 2 weeks ago and you had cake.
Yeah.
And he just went, oh yeah, I just have some cake. And I was like, right. So
the thing is though, for me, someone like that has never fallen in love with cake. Do you know what I mean? So like, cake's not a problem for him. Whereas I'm at the gym.
Do you like cake or do you dislike? Are you not really a cake man?
I love cake.
I love the cake.
Depends on the cake. Depends on the cake.
There are very few cakes I
don't like
won't
anything coffee flavoured. I don't like red velvet particularly.
I like a red velvet.
No,
I'm not a massive. I'll eat it.
I don't know what it is.
Not
it
a massive
doesn't have
carrot
a flavour. Oh, carrot cake.
I mean, I'll eat it, but I don't want vegetables in my cake. I don't want healthy things mixing its way into my cake.
We went to like one of the.
I want flour. I want eggs, and then I want some like hideously sugary shit.
Yeah. We went to Leanne's family member's birthday and they had like this posh cake. I can't remember where it's from. I'd have to ask Leanne. But it was insane.
Do you know what I used to...
It was light as air, mate.
Do you know what I used to love? Do you remember the tray-baked cakes you got in the primary school?
Oh, with a
How
bit of
good
custard.
were those?
A bit of
oh,
custard.
my God. Thanks to Jamie Oliver, I bet you can't even get those now. Bastard.
I think occasionally Morrison sell them. Occasionally in a
But
tray.
I bet kids aren't getting them at school, are they?
No, I bet not.
But they were so good.
Phenomenal.
Oh, I used to love those.
Yeah. And it was
divine.
And it was like the shittest custard, but it was amazing.
Yeah, it worked. It just worked. Oh, so good.
Yeah, it's made me sad now.
Are you custard and ice cream? Custard or ice cream?
Custard and cream.
Custard and cream. Yeah, I like a bit of cream.
Yeah, a bit of spray cream. If you get like a melt in the middle chocolate pudding, that's normally like my Christmas dessert of choice.
Hot custard or cold custard?
Hot usually, but I can go with
you
cold.
Can eat cold. Yeah.
But preference would be warm. And then I might have if I'm having the chocolate dessert, I won't have custard with that, but I'll have like Marks and Spencer's extra thick double cream, which is basically butter, but
yes,
cream.
You've got to have proper thick double cream. Do you know what? I think this is the most we've ever agreed on food. I know there was a little disagreement there on the roast dinner, but for the most part, this has been just a lovely...
I expected you to be quite anal over the way you eat food, but then think about it. I've been with you eating meals, and you take small bites, I've noticed, but frequent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is a bit like you're nibbling on it almost, whereas me, I'm like massive bite, put it down, and then another massive. Do you know what I mean? Like, and
I'm like,
yeah.
Got to get through that.
It's almost like you've had people steal your food off your plate before, and you're like, I've got to make sure this doesn't happen again.
I don't think I have, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was a trauma somewhere in there.
Or like even if it's just like an implied trauma in your head, like something
it could
you're just
happen.
afraid
it
of.
could happen.
Do you know what I mean? And look, to be honest with you, a lot of us are quite large people that you're friends. So like,
yeah, it's a real threat.
It is a possible threat. I mean, luckily, most of us were raised better than that. Do you know what I mean?
Although when we went out together on that, Alex eats a surprisingly little amount of food.
Yeah, but then I'm the sort of person. It's when I'm not busy. Like if I'm busy, like I will. If I'm at work for 8 hours, I won't eat at all while I'm at work.
When we were in Vienna and we had that schnitzel, the pork schnitzel, Ash ate all of it. It was massive. Ash ate all of his. I must have eaten about 3/4 of it. I mean, I struggled for it. Mostly because it got dry towards the end. I was still just dipping it in mayo and stuff, but it's like, that's a struggle. And chips as well.
Yeah.
And Alex only ate half. Took the other half home, didn't even eat it, and got rid of it in the end.
He's definitely changed then. He's definitely improved then, because that wasn't... He used to be a bit more like me. So, yeah, fair play.
Good food topic. Good food, my man.
What you got for us?
Well, I'll let you know when my phone opens. Okay, so...
Professionalism.
Can I interest you? Because I know you're a man of the spirituality. I know you're a bit of a man of the spirituality.
You've piqued my interest.
So could I interest you in a new-to-the-market amulet?
I've seen you.
That's going to protect you from Wi-Fi and other bad energies.
Now, I would assume something this amazing would have someone really reputable behind it, pushing
Unbelievably
it.
reputable.
Yeah.
Probably someone I don't think... Now, look,
beyond reproach.
I might be wrong because obviously I've got a limited memory. I'm only human. I can't remember any accusations ever being raised against this particular individual. I think they're one of the good ones.
Yeah, I mean, your memory's definitely limited, probably because of the super injunction that's out there.
I did. This person, we spent a weekend, I did consume a lot of Rohypnol as well, which is definitely affecting my memory.
And you had a lot of baby oil used.
A lot of very relaxing baby oil.
Yeah.
But no, the very reputable Russell brand has offered on the market. And do you know what? You'd think something like that, you'd think, my God, I'll probably have to put a house deposit on that. It's going to warn off Wi-Fi and bad energy.
Yeah.
And it's got Russell brand backing it. That must cost 100 grand.
Yeah.
20 grand. No, my friend. That can be yours for the small sum of 180 English pounds.
Oh, that's gone down. When it was first released, it was 299.
Yeah, well, they weren't selling any. But... do you know what though? I'd be tempted as a business tactic to release something, to do that thing, release it initially at a higher price than I ever wanted to sell it, just so that then I could reduce it later on and go, do you know what, guys?
Do.
You're right, it is out of order. I've charged too much. I'm sorry, I'm going to cut it. It is what most business do. I'd be tempted to employ that tactic. But what do you reckon? Because Christmas is coming up.
I mean, what I loved the most about it, have you seen the video of him advertising?
I absolutely have not.
He starts off pretending to come out of a bush with a suitcase in his hand.
Del boy.
And he's like, I've just come back from wherever. And yeah, he just goes on a spiel about how amazing this amulet is. And he's like, it can be yours for $299.
Do you know what's funny as well?
Is he that hard up for money? Maybe the legal bills have been quite large.
Do you know how he's advertised it and how his viewers would have known about it? Via Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And 4G and 5G and all those things that are presumably bad energy.
I have heard some credible people talk about that some of the signals being sent around the world in general can be damaging, but to the extent of which I'm like unsure of. I don't personally feel the need to wear a protective amulet to.
So I should cross that off the Christmas. Hang on.
I mean, you're not spending £180 on.
Yeah, I put in an order. Just like.
Is that Russell?
Sorry, you want to what with me? Yeah, no, but can I cancel the order?
It's definitely Russell.
What do you mean you don't do refunds? Oh yeah, no, I know what you want to touch, but look, you know, I'm gonna have to call you back. I'm right in the middle of something. There you go. Well, you know what?
Did he try and sell you a Bible again?
He tried to do many things, actually. For a Christian man, it's quite shocking. For a newly born Christian man,
honestly, like, if you were to write,
it's very fast, isn't it? His transition.
Write a book of like how to make yourself look guilty. Like, he's read the book, written the book, like made it his mantra, and just done everything possible to make himself
full on, like Danny DeVito in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, when he inherits the inherits this like underage beauty pageant, kids beauty pageant, and the guy that he doesn't realise until a bit later on that the guy he got it from was done for diddling kids.
Okay.
And then he's like, he just goes to the guys really quickly. He's like, you need to write me a song. And they're like, what? And he's like, yeah, do not diddle kids. Diddling kids is bad. And they're like, if there's one way to make all the parents think you're diddling their kids, it's to write a song that says don't diddle kids.
Diddling your kids.
and I feel like that's very much the approach Russell Brand has done. It's like, I need to, he's a close advisor, if he's got any, he's probably said, just play it cool, lie low.
Keep your head down. Yeah,
don't get involved in anything.
Don't baptise people in rivers.
And he's just been like, do you know what? I'll tell you who they don't criticise. Christians. I'm going to be a good born again Christian. And they're like, well, I wouldn't. And you know what? I'm going to go on tour. There's this bloke, Jordan Peterson. They're like, yeah, he's not very reputable. I
wouldn't align yourself with him either.
I would maybe avoid that one. He's like, no. And I'm going to go in the river in my pants.
I'm genuinely waiting for him to do a podcast with Tommy Robinson. Like, that feels like the natural next step. That he's going to do some sort of campaign where, like, Tommy's just misunderstood. He's another one of God's creatures.
He's just looking out for the good of his community.
For our children. Do you know what I mean?
And I'll tell you one man who's not looking out for our children. It's Russell Brand.
Honestly, for me, like as we've sort of touched on before, I find it quite sad to see.
And we've touched on nothing compared to what Russell Brand's touched on.
No, totally. But like, I find it sad to see, like, when I first sort of got into him, to go from that, because they are completely different people, and I think that just adds to sadly, the validity of the accusations against him for me, because if everything he built his image on is fake, then it's not difficult to believe he's been up to all sorts of malfeasance.
He's literally latched on. He's like, I still need to make
It's a tale as old as time. Anyone with shit allegations against him suddenly become religious and a family man. And
yeah, and look, it's also the fact that, especially with the way that things have been since Brexit and Trump, which kind of came about obviously the same sort of time, 2016 sort of, you know, Trump first burst on the scene. And the thing is I think they've highlighted this market of people on the far right, not even right wing, people on the far right, who are dumb enough to buy everything grifters sell them.
Yeah.
So if you still need to make a living and you've had the rug pulled under you, no one will hire you, no one will go near you, no one reputable anyway, you can get on that right-wing grift wagon, target those people, whether it's through religion or whether it's through racism, whether it's through both.
Well, the thing is,
and they'll buy it.
Yeah.
They'll still buy it.
There must be an ever-growing number of people that perhaps, and even amongst young people, because I think this is sort of where incels come from to a degree, where they might grow up in a household where parents have really questionable views, or their father figure had very questionable views, and they grow up into not very nice people who get more and more isolated from other people, because as a society we are trying at least to push in a more quote unquote woke direction in terms of just not being an arsehole to other people and being understanding and empathetic.
Did you see that? Oh, sorry.
That if people aren't following that path, they get more and more isolated, and then they become vulnerable to people like Tommy Robinson, like Russell Brand, increasingly Jordan Peterson, where they're and especially when they attach themselves to religion like Russell and Jordan have, it becomes more of a grift, because it is religion is something that is the original grift in terms of it's the first thing.
The one thing I quite like is that generally speaking, the religious grift is an easier sell to the far right in America than it is to the far right in the UK. I'll give them their dues. The far right in the UK,
but I would
mostly obsessed with the racism
Russell's
thing.
Russell's audience is probably predominantly Americans, I would have
and
thought.
That's what I'm like. So I'll give the British their dues. At least they don't see through that one.
But I think that's because,
they can see.
Even though most people still, their young education is quite heavy in terms of religion, because a lot of our schools, I mean, it's changing because of academies and things like that, but there's still a large number of religious schools that are attached to a church.
I mean, when we were in primary school, we had to do hymns. It wasn't even a religious school, but we had to do hymns.
No, we weren't a religious school, but we were attached to a local church, not physically, but in terms of
we weren't linked to any churches. We just had to do hymns.
We had a weekly service from the priest from that church, lovely bloke, and no, but when you say a priest came to your school, everyone assumes he was touching children. Well, I don't know, he wasn't either.
When you say that, all I can picture is, after someone's been found guilty of a heinous crime, and they kind of go, well, he was a lovely fellow, I just couldn't believe it from him.
And he was just telling basic, religious stories that have a moral meaning at the end of it. And in reality, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I just think
but it reinforces religion into your life.
Yeah.
It
makes me more uncomfortable now than it did then.
For all these parents now and stuff that are going, I wish they wouldn't shove this down my throat and that down my throat, and really they're talking about LGBTQ stuff predominantly, or the negative side of British history. I wish they wouldn't shove it down my throat. And it's they don't really have the same. They don't really have the same problem with religion being shoved down your throat. And they go, well, it's not religion, is it? It's a few hymns, and you're like, well, it's a couple of lessons on.
No, do you know what I mean? I actually think that's more dangerous. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know they're not
in a classroom.
I know they're not directly comparable, but
I know, but I think personally, the experience we had growing up is more dangerous in terms of the implicit and like subliminal message that's sending to young children.
But I've no doubt that there are people that will complain about both.
Yeah.
But I think an awful lot of people that complain about that being shoved down their
Don't
throat will
complain
not
about-
complain about.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But did you see, speaking of the woke world we're trying to get into, I read this story the other week, because it was kind of going around the Twitter sphere, of a bloke who was on The Bachelor, and he decided that he was going to come out as trans.
Okay.
So he was trans for like 6 months or whatever. He was never trans. He did it as a quote-unquote social experiment to see how gullible the left are.
Right.
And he was like, this bloody woke thing, and it's like... And I read the story, and I was like... And there's a lot of people, the reason I kept seeing it, the people retweeting it and stuff, and it was like, this isn't the slam you think it is. All you've said is, I told everyone I want to be known by this, to
And
go
they
as she, her,
followed it.
and they treated me with kindness and respect. That is not the slam you think it is.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, what that shows is an extreme level of tolerance rather than necessarily gullibility, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it was like, you know, they actually called me like she and her, and it's like, again, that's not the dunk.
No.
They were being kind to you.
I can sort of see the point he's making, but not necessarily for the reason he's making it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, I do think in that situation, if someone's genuinely doing it almost as if like a grift, we should call those people.
But you
out.
can't know that it's a...
Yeah,
know.
so that's why ultimately most people probably just went along with
But
it.
it was just, I just quite enjoyed reading it, of being like, I don't think that's the social experiment you think it is.
No.
I think you just wore a dress for 6 months.
I mean, I still think a lot of people's feelings towards it is more one of a lack of understanding and ignorance rather
100%.
than like a... What's the word? Like, dodgy attitude towards it, for lack of a better word.
Well, anyway, that's Brandon, his amulet. You don't want it. I've tried to... You heard me try to cancel it. That's not going very well.
Well, you
also,
can
now
keep
Russell
it.
Brand's got my number.
Well, that's never been a bad thing in history, so you're fine.
Not for me. Not for him.
And to be fair, for all the things that have been labelled against him, he's not homosexual, so
Well,
you
I've got
should
a text
be fine.
here. Hang on.
Is that Russell?
Do I want to be baptised? Clothing optional. So I'm just going to respond
That's
to
an
this
obvious yes.
quickly. Yes, definitely. Wear those tighty whiteys.
To change the subject to a sadder subject is someone very famous died in the last week.
And now, do you know what the thing is? I know who it is because we spoke about it at the start, but right now I cannot remember who the fuck it was.
Liam Payne.
Oh yeah, the One Direction dude.
Yeah.
Sounds quite dismissive. It's sad he's died.
Yeah, I mean, I made the obvious jokes upon hearing about his
Demise.
untimely death.
His unfortunate fall from grace.
Yeah,
from this mortal
finding
plane.
out that it was very
Not even great.
likely a suicide. I mean, I just assumed when I'd first heard about it, because I'd heard that he had a history with substances. So my assumption was he likely got high as a kite and just an accident happened. But it sounds like it was more likely he chose to do it. Drug fueled still, but that's where he was at. So it is desperately sad. He has left a son behind as well, a young son.
And it because it's all these it's basically the context of it is that his ex released a book and
Yes.
accused him of detailed some quite abusive behaviour.
Yes.
Basically, and that came out like literally a week before he passed or something.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a couple of videos about it that allegedly he reached out to her more than once and asked her not to go through with it. People that were close to both of them reached out and said, look, Liam's in a really bad place. He's asking for you not to release it. Now, look, it's a difficult one, isn't it?
Do you think she currently feels any responsibility?
It's difficult because if
we don't know her. We're speculating,
Yeah,
of course.
I've seen clips of her on a podcast. I think it was like 2 days prior to him dying. And so by that point, she would have presumably known. And whether she believed it or not, because if he was an abusive partner, your trust of him and like you might think he's manipulating you or, you know, whatever else. It's difficult to know the ins and outs, but she didn't come across as someone that in any way was worried or concerned or, I don't know.
But you're not always thinking worst case scenario, are you, in that moment?
No.
You're thinking, she might be thinking, and again, I'm speculating, I'm just offering an alternative, but she might have just been thinking, well, fuck it, he's probably just going to go on a bender, well, fuck him, he deserves it, you know.
Yeah.
She might not have been thinking, well, fuck it, he's going to throw himself out of a third floor window and, you know.
But
just speculation.
It is hard to argue that if it's true that multiple people reached out to her and said, look, this has really twisted him up. We're asking that just for now you hold off on it, and she chose to ignore. Like,
to be honest,
if it was me, I wouldn't say I was totally responsible, because that's not true. She's not totally responsible, but I would feel at least some guilt.
Can I be honest with you? And I realise I can be quite a reactive person.
Yeah.
Do you know what the weird thing is? Normally in most of my life, I'm not, but for some reason when I get on the pod, it's heightened.
Well,
it makes for good content.
Well, yeah,
I suppose. It makes for better content.
The amount of times like you or someone else has said to me, "But you said this on the pod," and it's like, yeah, but that's the pod, and like,
pod me, and
I'm always more
like,
hyperbolic on the pod than I ever am off of it.
But if I was in an abusive relationship with someone famous, and I mean, famous or not, I detailed it, and I was going to release the book, and like, they reached out to me and said, or their friends reached out to me, and they reached out to me and went, look, they're in a really bad place. I go, I don't give a fuck. They abuse me, and I'm going to tell the fucking world about it.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit how bad they are. They shouldn't have abused me. If they didn't want me to detail the abuse, they shouldn't have been abusive. That would be my gut instinct.
Yeah. But that's if we don't know, like, because the thing is, in every...
No, but I'm just saying how I would respond if someone reached out to me.
But that's with the assumption that he was 100% abusive, and we know that for a fact. And because it could also be the case, and look, I don't like accusing
but if
people
we
of
take
stuff
her,
like this.
If we take her book at face value,
I would argue it's difficult too, because she's chosen to change all the names so that she doesn't get any legal wrangling from it, which says to me
that says more of a legal thing.
That feels to me personally a choice to.
But you and I both know how successful domestic abuse and rape cases and things are in court, and how difficult they are to prove.
I think there's other ways to then do that other than releasing a salacious book with no names in it, and then to a podcast talking about releasing a book about it. And
I'm just making a point.
Yeah,
just countering a point.
The thing is, we don't know the truth. We don't know the truth of their situation. It's hard to...
Very traumatic for his current partner as well, who was there for
100%. And it's difficult to believe that someone who was having substance abuse issues wasn't at times abusive, because you can absolutely believe that would be.
And our One Direction fans are crazy, and I'll very rarely give them credit. But what I'll give them credit for is I did see a clip on social media where his dad arrived at the hotel, I think it was.
Oh, and they covered him, didn't they?
Well, they literally tried to hold up their hands, their bags, whatever they could to stop the paparazzi and the news, to give him some privacy.
That is the saddest thing.
And I will give them, as fans, their credit.
For doing
they 100% did
they still stood
the best thing
outside the hotel, though, aren't they?
But they did the best thing they could have done in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, they could just go home and not be stood outside the hotel he killed himself at. Do you know what I mean? But
they want to grieve. That's how they grieve.
I don't know. I think that's being generous. I think that's generous. I personally don't think you need to do that to grieve someone you've probably never met.
No, but I do understand people going to a place and just kind of, this was the last place they were, so this is the last bit of contact I can have with them.
It just feels a bit icky to me.
I mean, like, if our swathes of fans, if you went up to the top of your mum's house and jumped off the roof.
It's a big house.
And our fans came and wanted to mourn here.
Yeah.
And grieve here.
Oh, no, I'd wish they'd give my mum privacy.
I don't think... Oh, no. And I get that.
Yeah.
But his dad doesn't live at the hotel.
No, but they would, like... It's obvious if someone's passed away somewhere, the immediate family's going to turn up at that place.
If I was the hotel, I'd be charging them a fee to stand on the property.
Yeah, and then donate it to a men's mental health charity.
No. I'm taking that as profit.
Nice. You're then abusing the situation for profit.
Yeah.
Nice.
If I'm the hotel.
So you're just in there with those fans.
If I'm the hotel.
But no, like...
Because who the fuck's going to stay in your hotel while there's a shit ton of grieving fans standing outside? I'll make my money.
Yeah. For me, whatever way you look at the situation, it's very much a cautionary tale of what happens when you give, particularly it seems, young men a lot of money and a lot of fame at a very formative age.
Well, yeah, I was going to say not just that. He never knew a different life.
No. From the age of like 14,
he never had a quote-unquote normal life.
No. And like, look, if he was an abusive partner, that doesn't excuse any of it, like being an alcoholic and drug addict. He had the resources at his disposal to try and fix that, but you can only assume if he's taken that action, probably not a lot of people around him.
And this is genuinely a thought that has literally just occurred to me, do you think One Direction will get back together to perform a concert in his name or in his honour and then donate it to like male mental health charity or something?
That would be a nice thing to do. That would be a nice thing to do if you're going to do it for charity, yeah. I mean, I remember watching a podcast he went on, I think it was Logan Paul's, maybe like a year or two ago. And like in that, I said like he comes across as delusional, quite arrogant, very difficult to relate to.
We saw the same clip, the compilation clip.
Yeah.
And we spoke briefly about it, of all the others talking
like,
about.
As soon as he got uncomfortable, he became Captain Jack Sparrow for a minute or so. And it was like, you could like the signs.
He has no coping, like he has no healthy coping mechanisms or emotional regulation. That has come across in every time I've seen it.
And then there was more recent clips in that compilation of him, like maybe even 6 months ago, basically being like, everything I was doing then was just for attention and to keep myself relevant. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't need to do that. Do you know what I mean? But
equally, he sort of did, like, the music industry is cutthroat and the entertainment industry is cutthroat.
But what I mean is, like, what was the motivation behind wanting to stay relevant? Was it to keep making current and good music, or was it just for the sake of staying famous?
Well, I think once you've had a taste of it, it's very hard to
slip
back into anonymity.
Like, you've achieved a level of success most artists probably won't ever.
But you and I can do that because we've lived a normal life up to this point.
No, that's all fair.
So we can say, we can grab a bit.
This is where I feel like people like that need to be surrounded by. And again, it's difficult because when you're that wealthy and famous, you're always going to wonder who's here because I'm Liam Payne.
I know for a fact you guys are only with me for my money.
Yeah, well, obviously, when you live where you live, it's hard not to be attracted to it.
I've made my peace with it.
Yeah, I hope you've got your new missus. You've warned her about the prenup one day, and
she'll sign it.
Yeah, of course she will.
She'll sign it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't think I'll say this. I don't. Well, anyway, yeah.
But no, I think it is really sad. Like I said, I think it's a cautionary tale. I think sadly he won't ever be the last person to go through that sort of suffering. And I don't really know what you do to stop it either. Do you know what I mean? Because if someone blows up at a young age, like, what do you do? Refuse to let them take advantage of it? He in interviews he talks about how he wanted to be a performer, he wanted to be a singer, he wanted that life. And
that's all he wanted.
And I think sadly, like a lot of famous and successful people, once you reach that place, you go, well, actually, none of these things are the things that you need to be a happy and well-rounded person.
Of course not.
And then because, as you said, he's not lived a normal life, he gets to that position and then has absolutely no idea what to do with the rest of it.
Yeah.
And sadly, obviously, made some very dark decisions.
And it's that thing of, if you and I now achieve some exponential level of fame and achievement and success in whatever field, and then it slipped away because, let's say, we broke up and went our own ways, you and I are both capable, because we've lived a life up to now,
to
of
appreciate whatever you got out.
Well, not just that, but you and I are capable of going, we're no longer relevant, and slipping back into a normal life.
Yeah.
It will be difficult and there'll be a hell of an adjustment period, but we can do that. For somebody who's never had a normal life,
they don't know where to go.
They don't know how to move on from the fame.
But again, because we've been normal previously, like, if we became rich and famous and whatever else, we wouldn't abandon people that we're friends with.
Oh no, in a heartbeat. Fuck them.
No, but I would want someone like Ash in my life still, because there's no way I'm getting too big for my boots if Ash is still one of my closest friends. Do you know what I mean? Because I imagine, like, I got invited for like a knighthood or something like that, he'd be like, no, you're still a dickhead. Do you know what I mean? I was still there the night you cried. He'll know what night that is, by the way, just from that line. The night you cried. He'll know exactly what night I'm talking about.
I mean, pick one.
No, but there's.
I'm well aware. I'm well aware of the one. But I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You have a history of getting emotional when drinking.
When I was younger, yeah. When I was less emotionally adjusted. But now I just save it for the shower. Do you know what I mean?
We all do. It's a very weird experience, masturbating and crying at the same time. But you just got to get everything out in one go. You just got to work through your emotional stuff.
If anything, it's time saving. Do you know what I mean?
In that small sort of 5-10 minute window, you just got to power through.
Exactly.
Can I jump to something a bit happier?
Please.
And just share with you this flight that took place, Qantas. I love the cat's joined us.
He's just pushed the door open.
Do you want to hear this story?
Please.
I'm talking to the cat.
I'm going to have to throw the cat out.
Okay, you throw
I'm not
the
going to
cat
edit
out.
this out, by the way. Keep talking.
Okay, I'll fill some air. But I absolutely adore this. If you're not on YouTube, get yourself on YouTube. Follow the link. It'll be in the description below, wherever you find this episode. Can the cat use the handle?
You must not have pulled it too.
I didn't pull it.
Normally you close it.
I didn't close it. It was already closed.
Was it?
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't push it open again.
I hope he does.
That's right. He's walked away, I think.
Anyway, there was this flight from Sydney to Tokyo.
Right. Yeah.
Where the in-flight entertainment system was broken.
Okay.
So people couldn't just access what they wanted and watch series and films and stuff.
Yeah.
So they played a movie for everyone.
Yeah.
And it apparently was a very sexually charged R-rated movie called Daddy-O.
Okay.
And there was quite a few complaints from parents who weren't very happy that their children were sort of being forced to watch this very explicit material.
What was the film about?
Well, Daddy-O, do you want me to pull it up and tell you?
Please do.
I did look it up, and then typical me fashion.
So what did they play this on? Just one big screen?
No, just all the screens. But what people couldn't, there was problems with the software, so people couldn't access the screens individually.
Right, okay, so it was just
but they could send a signal to everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Fair enough.
It's a film from like last year. This is it. It stars Dakota Johnson as a young woman returning home to Midtown Manhattan from the airport in a cab, who unexpectedly ends up conversing with her taxi driver, who's played by Sean Penn, and essentially recounting all of her sexual encounters.
And you said this was called Daddy-O?
Yes. It says...
I won't watch that.
She has an unexpectedly honest conversation about numerous topics, including their past and present relationships, sex and power dynamics, loss and vulnerability, but they do end up showing a lot of the previous sexual encounters.
You never hear about in it. I've never heard of that film before. It's got Sean Penn in it.
Yeah.
So...
What was the film that I really wanted to see that I still haven't seen?
That is a weird choice to play for families on an aeroplane, isn't it?
Yeah, anyone. Yeah, just be like, we'll just put on a film.
Well, like, if it was like on one of your trips, for example, it's
you
all
get away
adults,
with it, yeah.
That's fine.
Everyone's over 18.
Yeah, it's fine. But on an aeroplane where there's small children, yeah, you just can't be doing that. It'd be like putting Schindler's List on. Do you know what I mean?
But at least Schindler's List, there's no... Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's still pretty grim. It's still pretty grim.
Do you know or putting something like Inglourious Bastards on. Do you know what I mean?
Something very graphic. Anything by Tarantino.
Yeah, pretty much anything, yeah. I still haven't seen The Hateful Eight. That's one on my list.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
You've not seen Pulp Fiction either, have you? Or Reservoir Dogs?
No, I haven't.
Reservoir Dogs. So good. I mean, Pulp Fiction's good, but Reservoir Dogs is the one. One
thing we could end on...
Sure.
...is England have a new manager.
What?
Yeah.
And you mean they got rid of the king?
And I'm going to shock you even more. He's German.
What? I mean, to be fair, England should be used to being ruled by Germans. That's been the case since the 1700s. Yeah. I don't want to shock anyone.
No, it was funny. I saw a clip of Ollie Dugmore debating some flag waver. I can't remember what his name was. And he was
I bet it was like Steve 04128755.
No, it was like it was another quote unquote famous person or like someone who works in sports. I think his name was like Mike Perry or something.
Mike Parry?
Maybe Mike Parry, maybe. But
he's like I think that's a talk sport.
Yeah, and like Ollie actually brought up the fact that, you know, our royal family come from German descent, and he was like, that's totally irrelevant.
How?
Not really,
How is it irrelevant?
It's not really, is it? I mean, look, sadly, it's not that shocking. I mean, there was a tiny part who went, oh, a German manager, like, that's not what I would have expected.
But when you look at the managers who are available...
In terms of on paper, he's exactly what you should
probably
want.
The best. And it's like this... we're currently... I mean, I know no one's very happy about it because it's only an interim and none of us want him full-time. But Lee Carsley's Irish.
Yeah.
Oh, what? So
And
do
the
you know what I
Irish
mean?
quite famously aren't fans of England.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, to be honest, I remember talking to Alex about Lee Carsley, and I was like, I don't think even if he wins every game between now and the end,
He won't get the job.
He won't get the job, and I didn't think he'd want it because as soon as I'd heard he turned down the Brentford job when they were in the Championship because he didn't want to be in the limelight, I was like, well, then he's not
going to take.
He's
the
not
England
going to
job.
take the England job where you're going to. That's the most limelight you could have as a manager in England is being the England manager.
I mean, we still spoke about it as well. Tuchel's got a very good.
I didn't realise how
tournament
good
record.
His knockout record was.
Like it's pretty decent.
And like what more can you want in his
He knows how to
first
get over the line.
video he released? He was like, I want to win a World Cup.
Yeah.
So like he's setting the bar very high. He knows what's expected.
It'll be interesting. He likes to play around as well, so he might pick players that are on form rather than picking players because he thinks they're part of this core team, as he showed during his time at pretty much every club he's been at. He doesn't have the same idea.
He'll leave out a big name for someone he thinks fits the team better.
He doesn't have the same idea of a core team as most managers.
No.
No, but I don't have a problem with it. And like I said, when I look around, you go, okay, let's look at all of the English managers, not even who are available, who are currently
in the running
still active.
Yeah.
Who you might say might get a job. Alan Pardew.
I mean, was he ever really in the...
Steve McLaren, already done it. Although obviously, arguably, he's Dutch Jamaican.
Plus, I don't think he'd leave his new motherland for England.
Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
He's like... no, he's not the only manager managing in the top level who's English. But Eddie Howe, do I think he's good enough for England?
Not yet.
No. Gary O'Neill, I really like Gary O'Neill. Do I think he's good enough
for England?
No. Okay, we'll go around to some of the ones who have managed like relatively recently. Frank Lampard, God no. Steven Gerrard, God no.
Don't ask me to give you a solid... The only reason I can think of that I wouldn't have minded him was Frank Lampard, just simply because I think he could, one, handle the media side of it, and two, handle in terms of...
What with his trademark? No, but seriously.
I don't know what it is. Whenever I watch Frank Lampard, I like what I hear. Do you know what I mean? He's very good at...
No, he's wank.
See, I like Frank Lampard in terms of... From what I see.
don't dislike him, but as a manager, wank.
I think that's a bit harsh. I think he's done all right at places.
He did okay at Chelsea when he was...
Up, and that's not necessarily an easy task.
No, but so far everyone's keeping Everton up.
Yeah,
But he did okay at Chelsea when they had really proper restrictions on the transfer market. But as soon as he was given money and it was like, okay, now you can build a squad.
If the choice was presented to me as like Lampard or Tuchel, I'm obviously going to go Tuchel.
Yeah, but that's essentially what it is, a choice between.
Yeah. No, as soon as they appointed him, it was like, oh yeah, cool.
I mean,
he's won trophies.
The thing is, I would love people to write in and let us know, people who are football fans, soccer fans, for our American listeners.
Soccer, ever.
I'd like you to know, particularly if you quite adamantly and vehemently believe it should be an English manager, an Englishman for the job. Why?
Yeah.
But also, I want you to chosen? Who would you have picked?
Yeah.
Who would you have given the job to?
Yeah. And all of those choices would have been far more flawed than picking an experience.
And okay, maybe
for no other reason than the fact he's German.
Maybe we have a problem in the Premier League of diversity, or perhaps even a lack of diversity. We've got too much diversity because when you look at, I think in the last, was it 10 years or 15 years, they did the stats when they went domestic trophies won by managers of the same.
Managers or something?
Well, no, when they go back, because the thing when they went, by percentage, what number of managers who won domestic trophies were from that country in the top 5 leagues or whatever. I think
I bet it's massive in Spain.
Spain and Italy were relatively high,
Yeah.
but Italy wasn't too high.
Well,
German was again, but England, none.
But that's because if you look at like
no English manager.
Italy, for example, Daniel De Rossi retires, he gets given the Roma job. Pirlo got the Juventus. Like they get given a chance to.
I think Harry Redknapp was the last English manager to win a trophy in England.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
I think when he won the FA Cup with Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And that was 2008.
Yeah.
I think you have to go back that far.
The thing is, I think you've got to look at the FA. I don't think they've done enough to encourage players to go into coaching. I think that from what I've seen, the prices are too high.
Well, also
for people to get their licenses,
the opportunities to get licenses, because I think in the same way for coaches as it is for players, the doorway should be open to a lot of people. There should be a lot of competition. Therefore, to be good at it, you actually have to be good at it, kind of thing. But I know someone who's a coach, or who's done some of their badges.
Yeah,
I think they've done up to the B badge.
Oh, really? Is this the pro badge or national?
No, so then it's A, then it's pro.
Right. Okay.
So
they've done quite a few then.
They've done quite a few, but every time they apply, not only is it expensive, but this person's got the money. The money side's not part of it. They're doing quite well off. They've historically done quite well financially in their life. Yeah. And this person's been trying to get this license for, I think, it's an older person, so now they're probably not likely to get it just on the age.
Yeah.
But they've been trying to get it for about 15 years, and genuinely every time they apply, there's never a space. Do you know who gets it?
The
ex-pros who are being put up for it and sponsored by their clubs.
Yeah.
And what that means is the opportunities for managers to get through, the opportunities for coaches to get into the game are practically non-existent. So even if you can afford it, and a lot of people can't,
and the thing is,
there's no gateway.
The best, or not all of them, but there's been quite a few top quality coaches that have come from never having played, or if they have, very low level.
Very
football.
few.
Like even Jose Mourinho, he's one of the famous examples. He was never a top level player. He played.
We've said this before. Very few top level players become top level coaches.
Yeah, it is rare. Like the first one that comes to my mind is like Carlo Ancelotti, Pep Guardiola, Zidane. So like, there's a few, but yeah, you're right. In terms of the elite, it. And you know what it is? I've listened to so many players talk about when like a big name ex-players come in as their manager. And even recently, I think it was John Ruddy talking about Rooney coming in at Birmingham. And he was like, Rooney's like football brain. It's phenomenal. But he said the problem people like him run into on the training pitch is he'll come onto the training pitch even now.
And do something that we can't.
And he'll be like, right, I want you to do this. And it'll be spin this player and ping a 40-yarder behind the defence onto the striker's foot. He barely has to move. And then that player has to, sadly, tell the manager, like, I can't do that, boss. And then, like, so what do you then do? The player then, their morale gets put down because the 40-year-old overweight ex-player can do things still that he can't
I've said it before. It's, I really enjoyed that moment in commentary between Robbie Savage and Glenn Hoddle when they were watching a game, and Glenn Hoddle was like, all the player needs to do in this position is pick the ball up here, ping it over here, and Robbie Savage he laughs for the first like 10 seconds. He's like, yeah, we can't all do that, mate.
No.
He's like, I was never able to do that. He said, what I'd have done is exactly what the player's done there, and I probably wouldn't have even done that.
Yeah.
But it highlights a very real point.
Maybe like the genius in Pep Guardiola is that he makes it simple for footballers from like I say simple in terms of what he expects from each individual player is probably quite simple instructions, but the whole mechanics is complicated, but he focuses it player by player. But I don't know, but going back to the coaching side of things, you're absolutely right. We don't have a pipeline for people to go through. The FA have done this big publicity of like, we've got St George's Park and we've got this crop of coaches coming through, but clearly that's not true because it's not translating. I think, again, what else feeds into it is the success of the Premier League and the influx of foreign investment in all the clubs. Which
it's a very good marketing by the Premier League.
We've gone from having like a rich club was Blackburn back in the day where a local steel tycoon takes over and throws money at it. but is investing in British players, British coaches, things like that. But if you bring in an owner from China, they're not going to give a flying fuck what
it's interesting. I was
nationality the manager is. Do you know what I mean?
to the first time, listening to, I think is his name, David Dean, the former
Arsenal chief exec.
Yeah, and he was being interviewed, and he was talking about bringing Arsene Wenger into the game, or they were asking him about it. And he said that I got so much pushback from the board. He said because he was a foreign manager.
Yeah. And to be fair, he was managing in Japan at the time.
But
we're
going back to like 1996, I think Wenger took over.
This is back in the days where footballers were still drinking and smoking.
And he said, because they were like, how many foreign managers had been in the league? And he said, I think 2. He said, maybe 1. He said, and the board just would not go for it. Now, foreign, they don't count Scottish and Irish and Welsh, so you could still be Scottish, Irish, and Welsh managing in the English league. But he was just like,
anything outside of that.
He said, I got such pushback. And then they obviously were like, well, look at the success you had. It obviously worked out. And you think now, again, then they would say you were on the forefront because now most managers are
foreign.
But it was made for an interesting discussion. The podcast is a brilliant podcast.
Yeah.
I do recommend listening to it.
Yeah. I mean, and also you could make an argument that like English managers and English coaches got left behind. Like people like Arsene Wenger came in. That's probably actually a bit unfair because people like Sam Allardyce are famous for having like champion sports science being heavier in the game. But I think it definitely came across more with foreign players, foreign managers. They're the ones that up the standard and push
It's interesting
further.
You say Sam Allardyce because I think
if you listen to players that played under
I think
him,
there's a crop of just on timeline.
In terms of like tactically, definitely got left
timeline.
Behind,
there's a crop of managers who came through in kind of maybe had their peak of their success in the kind of like early 2000s, mid 2000s, and then carried on managing. So I'm talking Allardyce, Redknapp, Pulis. I know he's Welsh, but British on kind of the great thing. Yeah. And there's a handful of Scottish managers in there as well. And I think that when they retired or just stopped getting offered jobs, a combination of the two.
Yeah. Your Kirbysleys, your Pardews,
no
sort of
English, British managers have come through to replace them.
No, very few. And like, to be honest with you, I feel like Gary O'Neill's just someone who's got very lucky in terms of the opportunities he's been given.
Yeah.
But has obviously made the most of them. He's done a decent job.
Gary O'Neill, it might have changed now at Wolves, but it feels like the whole time he was at Bournemouth and the start of the time he was at Wolves, it was literally, it felt like...
it has changed a bit now, hasn't it?
No, it felt like he was an interim manager. It felt like the board didn't really want him and they were just waiting to find someone else.
He kept doing a good job.
But he kept doing a good job. But as soon as they really, it felt like you clearly want someone else.
Yeah.
I think he's a really good manager. I don't think he's England manager material.
No. I think he's proven he's a very
but he's a good manager.
Capable coach, yeah.
And
like if he became the Palace manager, for example,
and also
I'd be all right with
just to quickly discuss, I mean, Moyes is another one. Scottish, when he retires, there's no one coming through to replace him. I know he's obviously
speaking
the
of
reason
David
I say
Moyes, he's been potentially linked with
if Glasner doesn't.
If we don't turn things around quickly at Palace, the rumours are he's got somewhere between 5 and 10 games to.
But also, just the other thing about the England job and the England position is that, again, when you look at
we were talking about the England
when you look
job.
at Spain and you look at Germany, less so maybe in the other countries, because maybe in France I feel like they just build their team around mostly Mbappe, a little bit of Griezmann in there as well. But when you look at the Spanish and the German models, there's a clear identity of how they want to play.
Absolutely.
So as the coaches are coming through through the coaching, the training, and the lice getting their badges, they're being taught all the normal stuff, but they're also being taught this is how.
Is this an indictment, just bear with me for a second, of Gareth Southgate a little bit? The reason I say that is I wasn't quite aware of this until recently. He wasn't just in charge of the England team, but prior to that he was in charge of doing that. Of making the England DNA and being like, this is what we want to achieve at all levels we should be doing. And that clearly hasn't happened.
Can I offer something as my own view on it? And I do think he could have done more on that, but I just want to offer this. I think he addressed the biggest problem England had.
In terms of the unity and stuff, yeah.
I think historically through our lifetime, there's been so many rivalries in the England squad that they have not.
Yeah.
I know they all come out.
I think that's down to, for me, some quite, I was about to say toxic attitudes.
Oh, it is toxic.
And it
attitude.
is in terms of like, and I think from people like Gary Neville, John Terry, Steven Gerrard, in terms of because they were so hyper obsessed with winning, that didn't change.
And those three you've mentioned have been proper. I know they all eventually did it. Well, not all of them, but quite a few of those ones like that did little stints. But they're predominantly one club men.
Yeah.
So they are obsessed with winning for their club.
I think they did an appalling job of making the England camp what it should have been, rather than...
Yeah, well, Joe Cole has spoken about it before, hasn't he? Quite openly. And loads of them. But Joe Cole, I remember watching, give this really brilliant interview about it and saying that you wouldn't share. You were too scared of giving the other side an advantage in the league.
I really like Gary Neville, but the one thing I don't like about him is I think he's quite dishonest when he talks about England. He tries to make out that it wasn't that bad. And I think it's exactly how it was described by people like Joe Cole. And I think Gary Neville, for whatever reason, which I find odd, because in most cases he's quite good at putting his hands up. Like, he'll always talk about Valencia and the mistakes he made. But for some reason with England, he doesn't like the image of camps. He's a lot. And I think that's because if he was being really honest, he was
one of the guilty ones.
Yeah.
I just think that in terms of getting all the players and the England set up on the same page and pushing in the same direction.
And I think a big part that helped with that was the fact he was the under-21s coach and he knew these players that
I think just
he
to
was working with.
Sort of finish off the thought and maybe try and put it succinctly, in terms of getting everyone pulling in the same direction and on the same page, before you present them a page and go, this is the page we're all going to be on, you've got to get them all on the same... Yeah. You've got to get them together. So I think he's done that. I think the next step, now that doesn't exist in the England camp, the next step is now getting an identity and going, this is the page we're going to play. And he never did that. But I'll give him his credit. He did the first bit. I think that was the biggest problem with England that we had as a football country.
And I think it feels like that's no longer an issue. And that is something
now we can look at
maintained. So I hope, and I don't think Tuchel should be...
That's just how I feel on it anyway.
I think Tuchel should do the first team England job. I don't want him necessarily involved with anything else. I want us... and I don't know who you put in charge of it. I don't think someone like Gareth Southgate is the right choice because...
Again, you can't pick an Englishman because there's no one there.
No, that's the problem. Yeah. So you then need to bring a foreigner in to do that job, someone who is tactically adept, that can look at the resources we have, the sort of players we have coming through and go, in my opinion, this is what you should be putting all your efforts into. And then you need to make sure that Tuchel's all right with doing that as well, because if you're not doing it at the top, it's not going to filter its way down. But it seems sad to me that behind the scenes, it doesn't feel like the FA and England as an organisation in terms of the future is as organised and coherent and actually delivering the things they say they're delivering, if
and
that makes sense.
And part of the problem, and I might... because I don't know enough about the setup, but this is just the feel I get. So I'm going to say it because we're a podcast and I can say crazy things for a soundbite. I think a lot of the top brass in England in the FA, and I don't mean the top, but I mean a lot of the ones right near the top, are so concerned with keeping their own jobs and keeping their own necks on the line that they're not focused on
sponsorship money's coming.
They're not focused on the next bit. They're not focused on the team.
No,
they almost couldn't give a crap about the team. The team just needs to be well enough that they can keep their job.
I find that more frustrating.
So they're too busy focusing on their bit rather than looking at the whole setup,
which is apparently what they've supposedly been doing since they built St George's Park, was building this whole England DNA that was leading to a World Cup win. They had that clock on the wall, didn't they, that said... And I think, have we actually gone past that point yet?
I think so. Wasn't it the last World Cup?
It might have been, yeah. So, that clearly didn't work. And I don't know. I hope the choice of Tuchel is a positive move going forward. I will support him into the next tournament, and I'll reassess what I think of him after that tournament based off of how we perform.
Yes, probably the biggest criticism we had of Gareth Southgate, and I am slightly putting words in your mouth here, was his in-game management.
Totally.
His ability to adapt to a situation in the game.
There is a problem where even idiots down the pub go, we need to change things in a final. And the only person who hasn't realised it is the person who can make that change.
It's one thing going out there with an idea and going, this is how we're going to play this. But when that's not working, you've got to be able to adapt. So as long as Tuchel can do that,
which I think he's proven in his career, he's a manager that can do that. So I'm hopeful. I'm not going to say we're going to win the next World Cup because knowing England, we won't.
No.
I probably still won't enjoy watching England depending on the football
I don't mind
us playing.
I don't mind Tuchel.
But no, totally. And ultimately, it doesn't bother me. He's German.
But if people want to get in touch and tell us their views on it and tell us why it should be an Englishman or who they'd have chosen, or what order they eat their food in, tell them how they can do that.
It's really easy, but I have this really weird habit where unless you point at the screen...
This screen?
That screen. Oh, shit. It's just come back to me. You can do it on Twitter at Swords Crossing, on Facebook at Crossing Swords, on Instagram and TikTok, it's CrossingSwords_podcast. And if you're into that email hype, it's CrossingSwords19@gmail.com. Pow, bam, first time.
Yeah, I felt like I was doing like a Dragon Ball Z
I just
thing
Gerarded it. Do you know what I mean? Gerard!
Steve Gerard. Slipped on his fucking arse.
You guys might be in for a surprise next week.
You might be into a surprise. I might do it in my Speedos. Oh, the other surprise.
I'll be really
the other
upset
surprise.
if you do it in your Speedos.
The other surprise.
But we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.